even hardly publish an Iowa video without more news breaking in the process. Hawkeye Football receives yet another big piece to its 2024 group as linebacker Nick Jackson is returning following a successful attempt at getting a waiver from the NCAA. We'll talk about Nick's return to the black and gold. He has just loved his time here. By all accounts, loved his time over the past year, and he'll get another one with Seth Wallace, Phil Parker, and that bunch. We'll talk about it in just a second, but I do want to give a shout out to Iowa Floor Covering. If you're interested in their flooring, how they can help you with your upcoming DIY or flooring project, give them a call at 515-379-7000. You can also visit them online at iowafloorcovering.com. I've been plugging this Click Together, their Tough Core Click Together flooring. If you want to learn about that, just include the /DIY, iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. Tyler, Ryan, and the guys are Hawkeye fans. They're right in the center of Iowa down in Bondurant. They'll help you with whatever you need. Maybe it's a tile shower, or maybe it's tile flooring, carpet, whatever the case may be. Give them a call or visit them online, Iowa Floor Covering down in Bondurant. So the Hawkeyes will get back Nick Jackson. Boy, that's huge. I'll tell you, we didn't think a couple months ago, at least I didn't have this on my radar, thinking that a guy who was probably the most important piece of the 2023 transfer portal haul for the Hawkeyes, didn't think it was possible to get him back. But as kind of a way of review, the Hawkeyes got him from Virginia, and Virginia's season had been cut short just by a couple of games, but had been cut short due to the on-campus shooting last year. You know, the seniors on that team got an extra year, but the question was still out there. Would the underclassmen get extra years of eligibility as a result of that shortened season as well? Well, the answer apparently is yes, as Nick has received a waiver to go back to Iowa for another year, and he apparently has enjoyed his time enough. He's also very close with linebacker Jay Higgins, who also announced he'd be coming back. And give credit to Seth Wallace, Phil Parker. I mean, I don't think people realize how much those two guys are loved by their players. And yes, these guys are playing not just for Phil Parker, but for their position coach, Seth Wallace. And by all accounts, he is really respected, really liked by his guys. I think another party that we tend to forget sometimes as it relates to re-recruiting the players that are on your roster, which is something we haven't seen, we didn't really think was a necessity in recent years. But now with the portal and NIL and all this, it is essential. But give credit to the Iowa Swarm. Brad Heinrichs and the Swarm are a big part of this. And I think Kirk Ferentz, Beth Getz, and the powers that be would have admitted that in order for Iowa to have success, whether it be transfer portal, even in the high school ranks at times, but especially with guys that are on the current roster, guys are constantly getting poached. I mean, you got agents who are having conversations or trying to get players to pursue different avenues. I mean, it's really kind of a weird situation, and I'm sure it's very uncomfortable for Kirk Ferentz and the staff, and it's just great to have a fallback like the Iowa Swarm. And regardless of how much players are getting back and for what in return, I know obviously fundraising and some different deals that they have opportunities through the Swarm, but of course a lot of that is based on how much revenue the Swarm has at its disposal. I don't think there's any question that all these guys that are coming back, Jay Higgins, Luke Lachey, Sebastian Castro, even now with Nick Jackson, I think it's fair to say a number of those guys would not be coming back if it weren't for the efforts of Iowa's collective. And that's, whether you like it or not, that's the name of the game. And I'm not telling you to sign up to be a Swarm member, but if you want guys to come back, it's kind of a necessity now. It's going to be really hard to recruit, especially with proven guys via the transfer portal or even guys on your roster without that equity at your disposal. So congratulations to everyone. Kirk Ferentz, the Jackson family. I know, again, Jay Higgins and his family, very close to Nick, have a lot of respect for what he's given to the program. I think he was the most important transfer during the offseason, or at least the best overall transfer. I know Iowa had a huge need at quarterback. Cade McNamara goes down 4 games in. Deacon Hill fills in. But I think Nick Jackson, just what he gave that linebacker room, and this gives another year for some younger guys to develop and learn. And I'm sure there are some younger guys that are disappointed by this news. Just naturally, human inclination, you're going to be disappointed. You feel like maybe opportunity has passed you by. Could we see a guy or two enter the portal? It's possible now that we have this news. I think it's possible at several positions now that we have the news. The Hawkeyes are not going to keep anyone and everyone from entering the portal. Let's keep in mind that they're above the scholarship limit right now. They're going to need some guys to leave. Something's going to break. Something's going to give at some point, especially if they want to go to the portal to kind of pad some different positions. I think of a guy like Zach Tweet, came from my area here in Story County. He's from up in Story City. and has had some feel-good news stories published about him. I know he had the story about helping some people that broke down on the side of the road and helped them get some gas in their car and move on. Those are great feel-good stories, small-town Iowa stories. He has struggled to find the field. He got here in 21. He'll be entering year 4. Assuming now that Kyler Fisher, there's rumblings that he's coming back, have not gotten an official announcement from Kyler. But if that happens, Iowa's running so much 4-2-5 with Sebastian Castro anyways. How does Zach Tweet find the field in his 4th year? I mean, he would have another year if he wants it. But again, I just don't have the answer to that. He's one guy. Look at a guy like Jaden Harrell. The clock is ticking on a young man there who was fairly highly recruited. And there are some younger guys. Tanner Pollock's a transfer from Drake who got here last year that I think is a guy to watch out for, especially on special teams. Then they have a bunch of young guys like Aiden Hall, Ben Keeter, and of course this year, Derek Weisskopf is an example. So they've got some young guys to kind of train and acclimate to Big Ten football. And presumably these 3 leaders, especially Jackson and Higgins, we'll see on Fisher, great pieces to bring back. And I think a lot of people figured those 2 guys were gone, specifically Higgins and especially Jackson. But give credit to Kirk Ferentz and the staff, and give credit to Brad Heinrichs and the Iowa Swarm, because everyone has a part in this. And I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow on a podcast. I'll be releasing a show with an interview from one of our signees this past signing day in December. We'll be releasing that tomorrow on Tuesday, talking about the Hawkeyes and just the collaborative effort and the unselfish need from both parties, both the Swarm and Iowa, to be able to work together and get things accomplished as it relates to roster makeup. So important in this day and age of college football. And we'll see what the next ball to drop is. We've not gotten an announcement from Quinn Schulte or Eric All. As I've said before, I think Eric is likely moving on. Who knows on Quinn Schulte? If they lose Schulte, guys like Cohen Entringer, I know people are excited about his future, kind of made a name for himself in the Big Ten championship game with a tremendous play on special teams. He'll be a guy that'll be called upon, and I think they'll be okay at safety regardless, but I'm sure they'd like to get Quinn back. So stay tuned. More stuff on the way, folks. Football, basketball, and the like. Post-game coverage for Iowa basketball coming up. The women play on Wednesday. The men play on Friday. Around the clock, Hawkeye content right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Stay tuned.